Thanks, Donna. So welcome back, everyone. The last time, I know I see most of you. That is my pleasure and privilege to see many of you at most meetings and events and everything else that is going on. But a lot of us haven't been together since we did the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition 2-year anniversary celebration in July. So, wow, it was so great to be able to have that moment, that window. We would actually be in person and speak and hang out, discuss and eat some great food together. Since then, your coordinating committee has been busy trying to figure out where we go next, compiling a lot of the surveys and information that we got from everyone, and also working in the background on things like our communications policy and affiliate packages. By the way, we're up to 35 different affiliates as of right now, folks. And so other folks keep joining and we keep doing that work. And I think that the coordinating committee is at the point now where we would like to apply for a 501c3 and make ourselves legit. So those are just a few of the things that have been kind of going on in the background since we've all seen each other. Again, I put the link there to our website so you can all take a little scroll through the affiliates, because I think it'll be important to how we understand moving forward what the structure of meetings are going to be. And even I made a couple slides today. I know I usually talk to you, and this was in the email, but I think it'll just be easier to sort of outline what we hope to do, right? And so most of the feedback from the surveys and when I saw you all at the celebration were really focused on the coalition doing two things. First was more networking, more of sharing and working together. And the second was action. And so our brilliant idea here to present to you today is that that's what we should then focus our meetings on. And we're going to go back to our second and fourth Fridays. We'll keep it via Zoom, but we have 35 affiliates. I know y'all are out there doing amazing things. And sort of the idea is that we want to bring in the affiliates so we can get to that networking and we can take those actions together and really fulfill the mission of the coalition, which is to mobilize collective action. So we've seen the agenda for today. Citizens Climate Lobby and People's Church are going to give an overview, and I'm going to attempt to give an overview of something that a lot of us have been talking about. It's now time to actually officially start, is utilizing our coalition to hold elected officials accountable and to move forward here in Kalamazoo County. And I'll share that at the end. But what we're really hoping that everyone, whether you're an individual or you're an affiliate or it's another group, doesn't matter. What we want to do is fill out the rest of the agendas, and you can see those meeting dates for the rest of the calendar year. We want to fill out that agenda with what you're doing and the actions that you would like to use the coalition to help you engage and complete and fulfill. So Kate Miller has already signed up for November 12th. We've got the climate mobilization coming to our next meeting. And I think that one might actually take the whole time. They do a post-climate emergency toolkit. So, we have these climate emergencies in many of our jurisdictions. How do we go beyond that? I think they might take the whole time. But otherwise, it is fair game, folks. If you want to come and get your 15 minutes of fame on November 12th or December 10th, we have a little form for you to sign up. And I'll throw that in the chat as soon as I get done screen sharing here. And then I think this is what we'll continue to do for the rest of once we get into winter. So there might be times where we need a whole session for a particular topic, but really the idea is that we could fit 2 to 3 affiliates, individuals, other groups, and for us to, again, capitalize on our ability to network and mobilize all of the folks who are in this coalition to take part in a variety of climate actions. So I'm hoping that makes a little bit of sense. So I'm going to throw those links in there. If you haven't yet signed up to present here, and present is, sort of this formal word, right? It could be 2 minutes. It could be, some small action that's going on. It could be reintroducing a new affiliate or your organization to the rest of the coalition and just letting us know what you're about. It's really pretty wide open. Again, trying to do that networking. The other thing we thought, and when you if you click on that form, you'll see, hey, if you don't want to present, or you have already made something, or you have a video that you want to do, we can share it out that way instead as well. And so that's also an option. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the other way that we're trying to include lots of different voices, actions, and folks is with our blog, right? The Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition started a blog over the past summer. We've got a few submissions and some success, especially with our climate intern, Eden, who wrote a blog on "For the Love of Veggie Burgers" is currently our most viewed item on there. So the other way to sort of speak up, or let us know what your group or you are doing, or really that's open to opinion pieces, to creative writing, whatever you're thinking about. We would love, love, love to publish that in our blog. All right. And so all those kind of forms go to the coordinating committee, and we'll work on agendas and getting you all published. So you can put that on your Vita, right? And moving those things forward. So does that make sense? Questions about how we're going to try to kind of move forward? So sign up. I want to hear from you. It's like my class. I should do the least amount of talking at this point, right? It should be all of you presenting your wonderful ideas. So just a one other kind of quick announcement. Hey, Lori.
Hello.
We'll do maybe quick announcements, and then we'll get into our agendas, our folks who are on for today. I just wanted to thank everyone for participating in all the emergent strategy pieces that happened through September. That was really an interesting collaboration with the Nature Center and Rooted, and many other partners in town, and reading Adrienne Marie Brown's work. There were like 20 different sessions throughout September. I think the recording of her talk should be out fairly soon, so we can all get caught up if you didn't get to be part of that. But we've certainly kept ourselves busy even without regular meetings. And of course, book club continues. We just finished up Emergent Strategy. If you missed it, Thor Hansen's talk was Wednesday night. They recorded that, so I hope to have that out. And whether you read it or not, we'll meet Tuesday night and talk about hurricane lizards and plastic squid. It was a fun conversation. My thanks to Director Jeff Spolstra for helping run some good questions that evening. So does anyone else have anything, like a 1 minute or 30-second announcement that they want to share before we let our groups for today go? All right, that's the silence. That's my count to about 45 seconds that I give in class. All right, hearing none, I know that you are excited today. We'll probably have just enough time to hear from Citizens Climate Lobby, and then from People's Church. And then again, I'll try to explain one big campaign action that we think the coalition can really take on. So with that, I see Tim and Marianne, and I see John here from the student chapter. Y'all want to tell us what's been happening with Citizens Climate Lobby and where we can help out?
Yeah, sorry, I don't have my video.
Okay, I hope that it's okay, Tom, if we do go first.
Oh, you want People's Church to go first?
Well, it doesn't matter. Since you introduced us first, let's us go first. Is that okay, Tom? I realized this morning that there's going to be a diversity in the audience here. Some of you may not know that Citizens Climate Lobby is an international, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization with 456 chapters in the United States and over 100 more chapters in at least 54 countries from A to Z, Australia to Zimbabwe. And that we're focused on two primary goals. The first is to build our members' skills in influencing Congress. So we lobby not with money, but with grassroots and grasstops, reach, media connections, lobby meetings, and chapter growth. And our second goal is to ask the federal government, is to make sure the federal government initiates what we call a carbon fee and dividend approach to carbon pricing. Others of you are already familiar with us and have even lobbied with us. So you know that carbon fee and dividend model includes three components. First, a steadily rising fee on fossil fuel emissions, starting at $15 a metric ton of CO2 equivalent emissions, and growing by an additional $10 every year, so that over the course of the first decade, when we would reduce emissions by 50%, there'd be an average of $50 a metric ton of CO2 equivalent emissions each year. The second component of this carbon fee and dividend model is the dividend. The monies are returned in equal portions to American households in monthly cashback programs to offset the increased energy costs that we'd have during the transition to clean energy. And the third component is a border carbon adjustment, or as the European Union calls it, as they're planning to institute one in January of 2023, a carbon border adjustment mechanism, or CBAM. That's to protect the businesses in the company that has the carbon fee and dividend model and to level the playing field among countries. But when I realized that we had the opportunity to talk, I wanted to take this particular moment in time because I think it's crucial. I wanted to reach out to all of you at this point to join our campaign in connecting with Congress. We started in July with a plan to connect all of the senators. And I'd like to show you, or Tim is going to show you a video of how that went. If Tim, you'll share your screen. And we will see the comments of the Vice President for Government Affairs of Citizens Climate Lobby, Dr. Danny Richter, who earned his PhD in oceanography at the Scripps Institute. Tim, are you ready?
Sorry, I thought I had this set up and now I'm having difficulty. Just a minute. Sorry.
Marianne, are these the same videos as that were in the email?
Yeah.
I have access to them real quick if you want me to load them up.
Go ahead, John.
There we go. I got it now, finally. Sorry.
Hello, everybody. My name is Danny Richter. I'm CCL's Vice President of Government Affairs. It's been a while since our last check-in, but I have been continuing to bake throughout these crazy times. Here today, just this morning, I baked a loaf with some Spanish olives in there. Spanish olives give it a little bit of a tang that you can really notice. And speaking of taking notice, did you notice the news from Friday? Bloomberg first reported, and now many other outlets have picked out, that the Senate Finance Committee is considering a price on carbon. Specifically, the Bloomberg piece reported, and the source document from the Finance Committee confirms that they are considering a carbon price starting at $15 per ton and escalating over time, paired with rebates or other direct relief for low-income taxpayers, as well as a border carbon adjustment. Now, do you know of any organizations who have been advocating for a $15 carbon price escalating over time with the border adjustment and the rebates? I can think of one. I can think of one that's been advocating for that. So how did this happen? Well, it is always hard from the outset to make any one-to-one connection between the actions we took and the response from Congress. But what I do know is that a carbon price was not in their plans when Democrats released an outline of what they wanted to accomplish on August 9th. And now, after you and your network made 54,000 contacts, calls and emails to the Senate, now we see that it is getting in their plan. It is being given serious consideration by the Senate Finance Committee. So I can't know for sure that it was you. All I know is that it wasn't in there, and now it's in there.
Okay, now I know that's what you might call a biased source. Danny Richter is the Vice President for Government Affairs for Citizens Climate Lobby. So let's look to someone else, perhaps less biased, someone with serious climate action credentials, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island. Now, you may be familiar with Senator Whitehouse. For nearly 9 years, every week that Congress was in session, he gave one of his time to wake up messages. And in January of this year, he stopped those messages with his 279th time to wake up message. Tim, do you have Senator Whitehouse's statement?
Hi, I'm Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, and I want to start by saying thank you to Citizens Climate Lobby for the wonderful, really astonishing work that you've done to help us solve our climate crisis. Here in Washington, we are close to putting together the most comprehensive piece of climate legislation Congress has ever seen. We're going to have to do it in the Senate through the reconciliation process, which means we'll have to get all 50 Democrats on board and perhaps get the vote of Vice President Kamala Harris to put us over the top. But we have a real great chance to do it. President Biden began with a wonderful program, and we've added to it since then the methane fee, which instantly became the third most impactful climate intervention in the array of climate interventions that the Biden administration is supporting. And we're working to refine and define the border adjustment so that carbon pricing doesn't set one country against another unfairly, and we can protect American manufacturing and interests. And at the end of the day, my goal is to make sure that our combined plan includes a real price on carbon that will really drive down carbon emissions and set a standard for America to lead the world when we hit Glasgow in November. None of this would be possible without the energy of Citizens Climate Lobby. I'm really proud of the work that you've done, and I thank you.
All right, so it seems to me from that evidence as if the efforts in the Senate have been successful. We followed that with 3 weeks of working with the House, and now we're on to another campaign at this very moment that you can help with, and that is to contact President Biden. Tim's going to put into the chat, if he hasn't already, the way that you can do that. Our goal is to have 20,000 emails or postcards to President Biden by October, the months passed quickly, October 15th. So 1 week from today, we'd like Citizens Climate Lobby members, friends, neighbors, relatives to have sent emails to to President Biden. The link is in the chat now to send President Biden an email. It's also really easy to do, cclusa.org/white-house. So not Senator Whitehouse, but to the White House in this case. And we've got 1 week to add to the already existing count. This morning was 12,835 messages have been sent to the president already. When you do that at that site, you'll also get a link once you're done to your senators, so that if you haven't already, or even if you have, you can send a message to them. We want to make sure that carbon pricing is in the reconciliation package. Now, I wanted to let you know that there are other ways that Citizens Climate Lobby is also working on trying to influence Congress. So there is an Economist Statement, and we're working now on a Michigan Economist Statement. If you are a student and have a class from somebody in the business school, or if you're a faculty member who has a colleague in the business school, please ask them if they've already signed on to the Michigan Economist Statement. And if they have, for example, Professor Ross has done that, thank them. And if they haven't, please encourage them to find out more about it and to do that. There are also a variety of other sources that are available. And so I'd like to have you see the Citizens Climate Lobby website. You'll notice that it's possible for you now to register for the virtual conference in November 13th to 14th, and that's free of charge. You can go to CCL's national call tomorrow. The link is in the chat. And after that, come to CCL Kalamazoo and St. Joseph Combined Chapter Act meeting. The link is in the chat. If you go to this website, you'll notice, oh, I guess I'm in community already, but if you go to the citizensclimate.org you can click on join. It's free to join. You can do that right away. And then you can go to community and register to become a part of community. On the community website, you can click on connect, and there you'll see a variety of action teams. And they are, I'm not sure why that didn't. So that is not, there we go. Okay. So look at the action team directory. I know that Tom is going to be talking about the Unitarian Universalist People's Church, but if that's the congregation you belong to, you can join the Citizens Climate Lobby group that is connected with Unitarian Universalists. If you're a Quaker, or if you belong to a synagogue, or if you're Catholic, or if you're Wiccan, there are if you're a Buddhist, there are groups you can affiliate with. If you're interested in how CCL works with nuclear energy, there are retired and perhaps current members of the nuclear energy task force. They worked in that business. There are people who do and used to work with oil. They're working with climate lobby to try to reduce fossil fuel use. If you're concerned about climate grief, you could go to the Resilience Building group and see the resources that are available for you there. So there are all sorts of resources that CCL has that are available to you. And I think at this point, I probably should turn the time over to John Rosowski, who's with a newly formed chapter of Citizens Climate Lobby, 6th Congressional District, WMU's chapter. So I'm going to stop sharing, and John, you're up.
Hello, everybody. So happy to be back at Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition. Just a few announcements I have about our Western group. The first thing is we are hosting, along with 2 other CCL chapters, an En-ROADS climate action simulation game. So we actually have done this once before at the Student Sustainability Summit last year. And we actually had a city commissioner show up, and it was a lot of fun. So this is a free and fun game that you guys are welcome to join us. So we're trying to get as many people to join as possible. It's going to be taking place on October 11th at 6 p.m. I'm about to provide a link in the chat for the Eventbrite where everybody can sign up if you're interested. And I just want to double check that that link works. Yep, looks like it works. Next thing, so CCL at WMU is also teaming up today with Students for a Sustainable Earth for a trash pickup. So anybody that's interested in cleaning up Western's campus, picking up some trash around campus, we're meeting today at 5 p.m. In Woodhall in room 2722. So I'm going to put that in the chat as well. And, just wear clothes that you would want to not mind getting dirty, and we will be providing trash bags, but if you can, bring some of your own. Next thing that I wanted to announce is also with Students for a Sustainable Earth. They have agreed to help us co-sponsor us to write a resolution in student government for the Western Student Association. We are going to write a carbon tracking, carbon pricing resolution. So I'm really happy to have Students for a Sustainable Earth as a co-sponsor on that resolution. And we're also working with Piper, who is the vice president of the WSA's, she's the VP of sustainability for the WSA. So that's really exciting stuff. And along with that, I know that on our agenda, it says keeping our elected officials accountable, but here at CCL-WMU, we've been working on keeping our college leadership accountable. So we have been keeping pressure on Western's leadership to provide carbon tracking and carbon pricing. And we've actually made a lot of progress, and we will be soon meeting with Provost Bott to talk more about internal carbon pricing right here on Western's campus. So it's something we're really excited about. And if anybody is interested in any of these things and would like to help, you can reach out to me directly. I'm going to put my email in the chat. One thing that we always need help with is recruiting members for our group. So if anybody knows any students that are interested in joining, feel free to give them my contact information and reach out to me directly. Thank you all so much for your time.
Yay, thank you, Citizens Climate Lab. Boy, you got the federal to the local. We got time for a couple of questions, comments. Steve Bertman, go ahead.
Yeah, John, in spirit of recruiting new members, do you have for the trash pickup thing today? It's the first that I've heard of it. Do you have a flyer or something, some specific details that I could send out to my class?
Yes.
If anyone in class is interested.
Yeah, the main information would be the time and the location right there in Woodhall. But if you want, I can forward you the email that I got from Keaton Conley. So the only reason I had access to this event is because I'm signed up for the Students for a Sustainable Earth. So I get their weekly emails. So that's probably why it wasn't widely publicized, because I think it's just kind of within their group, but I just happened to find out about it and decided, we should come and help.
Okay. Yeah, so great. If you could forward that that email with the deets, I will forward it to my class.
Yeah, I'll do that right now.
Has everyone here already written their senators and President Biden for the federal? I'll get to that link. All right. And the other thing that sort of got mentioned, and I think we might need to do a session on this, but of course, the conference of the parties, the 26th, I think that's right, is coming up beginning this October 31st through November 12th. And so I'll throw the COP link in the chat there. All of us should be watching pretty closely those international efforts too. And maybe we'll be able to do some deep dive into what happened when those finish up. Other questions for CCL? Thank you. Thank you. They're always ready to go. They always got an action for us to do. I appreciate the organization, and it's really been wonderful to have that on campus, to have some other student groups helping us out with that carbon neutrality committee. All right, People's Church. Tom, you want to tell us, one of us got to go out there, right? We got to hold 2 in-person events. We got to go see electric cars out at People's, and People's became an affiliate, I think, just back in May. So thank you very much, People's Church. And y'all been doing a lot of cool stuff.
Well, we've been trying to, yeah. So, so I'm glad to have this opportunity to talk. And I would say, just to reinforce Citizens Climate Lobby, the most important thing that we can do is get government action. The large organizations have the most power and the most resources to bear, and we got to move them. But we can also take individual action as well, and so that's what we've been trying to do at People's Church. And so let me start. This is going to be sort of a PowerPoint, I think. Okay. Y'all see that?
Looks great.
All right. So about 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, our Green Sanctuary Committee decided to proceed with a challenge to the church to try to get to a net zero carbon by 2030. It's a challenge, and we're working on it, but stay tuned. We'll let you know how well we do. The important thing is we keep moving forward on it and get as far as we can. And I think I think we have a good chance of achieving that. So here's our church. This picture of the church with the new addition on the front here, which is the location of the solar panels that we have put up. And now, when we started, we didn't have solar panels on the top of the list, but the opportunity came along, And we followed it up. So, you know, we started our task force in winter of 2019, started having brainstorming sessions and, you know, trying to figure out how we were going to proceed. And then we learned that Westminster Presbyterian had gotten a deal with Helios Solar to begin to put up their own solar panels. So I contacted Helios and said, we'd like to talk about that too. And so that began a little bit of an odyssey. So, and kind of a detour, if I would say, because there's the net zero program in terms of efficiency and conservation is one thing, but then there's over here, you see the solar. So that we've been proceeding sort of side by side with this. So we had Helios come out and make a presentation. We got committees involved, our building and grounds, the finance committee, the Green Sanctuary and the Board of Trustees, and kind of worked it through the committees and finally got the contract approved in late fall of 2019. And that was just in time to slip under the deadline that was going to reduce the incentives for us. So we're getting full incentives from the state and federal government. The work began on it in June, or in May actually, and it was completed June 2nd, and the system was commissioned then. So I'll return to that later. You can see that parallel to that, we were working on things for our conservation and efficiency program as well. Here's our church from the air. This is today's Google Maps. And you can see the 66 panels that are on our roof here. That's a 20 kilowatt nominal system. They went on to the addition, the new addition, because somebody in great foresight had put on a standing seam metal roof, and that's just perfect for attaching solar panels to it. And I'll show you a picture in a minute. Here's the original building, basically a rectangle. And then there was another addition back here. So the original building was completed in 1971. And it was not a time when we were paying a lot of attention to energy. It was basically done as a utility church building on a beautiful site. So we've discovered that there were a lot of opportunities to proceed. So here are the guys installing the panels in May 2020. This is a picture of one of the inverters. Each of the panels has its own inverter, which is an innovation that has made expanding solar systems much easier and also keeps the whole system from going out if you have one bad panel. So each panel has one of these. And here's how it's attached. You can see the clamp that just clamps onto this standing seam on the metal roof. So it's a very easy installation process. And this is from June 14th, 2020, a graph, almost a perfect bell curve of our power generation on that day. So this was the highest power generation that we've achieved, actually, close to the summer solstice. There must have been a cloud going by in the early morning, but other than that, this is what we'd like to see every day. We don't, of course. There are days when it's cloudy, there are days when it's raining, there are days when snow is covering the panels, and for 14 days last March, there was no report. The panels were working fine, but the internet connection was out on it. So we don't know what we generated at that time. And at the end of this, I'll show you what our results have been like. So here's the conservation and efficiency program. And this has evolved. This is a 10-year program. So trying to get us to 2030 with all the stuff done. And across the rows, each one of them represents an action of some kind or another. And the columns represent the years when we're going to try to do something with them. So our upfront work was getting professional advice, you know, kicking the wheels, trying to figure out what was going to work. And then we started doing a few little things. And my co-conspirator on this, Gary, has pointed out that you're not going to get anybody excited about insulating pipes. But I will tell you, for $200, we've probably already earned that back in our savings. We can see the difference in our gas consumption or at the beginning of that year. It's significant. And there are many things that you can find in any building that can achieve something that will maybe give you a 1 or 2 year payback, but you got to look real close, and you have to have some understanding of building systems. So you know, the next winter, or the following that, just in the winter of 2020, we replaced 3 distribution pumps on the heating system. So it's a hot water system. The pipes run through the ceiling, and there are 4 loops in it. We replaced distribution pumps on 3 of them with higher efficiency pumps. They probably won't have as quick a payback as that as the pipe insulation, but it's going to have a good payback. It's just uses less electricity to move the water around. We've looked at other things and made some improvements and changes. The one mundane one that I would like to mention was that we were running the ventilation fan in the bathrooms 24/7 because there had been some sewer gas coming up through the vent in the floor, and we wanted to make sure that it wasn't affecting anything. So took a look at that, and my Gary said, well, you know, if we just put some oil on that water in that drain, it'll keep it from evaporating, and then we won't have the sewer gas problem. We did that. We were able to shut off the vent fans and save that money. Another side effect was when we put the insulation on the pipes, it stopped putting heat up into the roof, which stopped the ice dams from forming, except in the very worst conditions. So we're able to not run the electric heat tape on the roof as often as we were before. So these are the kinds of things that, you know, somebody who is trained or understands the building systems can really spot for you that don't jump out very easily. So here's the solar panels. Our arrangement, excuse me, with Helios is that they will own it for 5 years, and we'll basically pay them rent on it, or pay our cost out of it from the proceeds of the energy that we're getting. We still make a little bit of money when we sell it back to consumers, but for the first 5 years, most of the proceeds are going to Helios. Then we'll buy it. And after that, I calculate that we'll be getting our electricity at a cost of about 8.5 or 9 cents a kilowatt hour, as opposed to the current 15 cents or so that we're paying. So there will be a real financial incentive when we get to that year 5 there. We looked at window treatments. We've looked at replacing the roof and insulation on the roof. We've looked at exterior walls and eventually the possibility of replacing our natural gas boiler with high efficiency electric alternative, which because heat pumps are becoming much more efficient now, it's likely that that's what we'll be doing. Maybe either individual heat pumps for each room or smaller ones for a few rooms, or maybe one on the roof that'll handle the whole building. So we'll explore that in 2 or 3 years as we go down the road. And then finally, we'd be looking at putting metal roofing on our on the rest of our roof so that we'd be able to install solar panels easily on there. That's a future project, but that would be the thing that would get us finally to zero net carbon, is if we can produce all or most of our electricity, and if consumers switches to renewables as they go along. So we did some analysis on this before we started. I have a background, I was an energy auditor for Michigan Gas Company back in the 80s, and then I re-certified myself and did it a little bit more in the late 90s. Gary's a retired HVAC person who managed the HVAC system for a university down in Indiana. So he's got really good mechanical skills. So between the two of us, we were able to sort of track down and analyze where the biggest bang for the buck comes. So if you look at this column, which shows the amount of heat lost under various conditions. We're looking at windows in this row. Current conditions, it has a R value of 2.04, and we lose 24.5 BTUs per hour through that. Doing a double shrink wrap on an interior storm would cut it down to about 8.66. Foil-faced polyiso shutters would bring it down to 4.38. And what we finally decided on was a double cell blackout shade, which isn't quite as efficient, but it looks a lot better, and it's easy to get the light in when you want it. So we've decided we would go with that. And then for the walls, we have currently cement block walls, 3.2 R value. If we put 3 inches of interior polyiso, it brings the R value to 22.5, and you can see that the BTUs per hour per square foot lost goes from 15 down to 2. This is our biggest payback, so we settled on that. The ceiling, which in many buildings would be the biggest energy culprit because you have warm air rising to the ceiling and it's usually not very well insulated. In our case, we had pretty good insulation, an R17. I mean, the current standards are like R60, so it's not way up there, but even with that 3 inch of polyiso, we'd only bring it to 40, and that would be 2.94 down to 1.24 would be our change in the BTU in the heat loss. So we put our effort on the windows and the walls initially. The rest of this spreadsheet kind of calculates, what would happen with all of the rooms. This was just looking at one room. This illustrates what we have, a concrete block filled with vermiculite. This illustrates what we are doing. This actually is 2 inches of polyisocyanurate. We're putting in 3. And we're getting about 22.5 R value on that wall. Here it is in process. This is with the furring strips up. And our current heating system, which we had to leave in place because we're not going to get all of our heat loss taken care of. We'll still have to be pumping heat into the room. And here it is with the first layer of polyiso on it. This is foil faced. It reflects both directions, and it'll keep not only heat in the winter, but it'll keep heat gain out in the summer. Oh, and then there's this. Another kind of serendipitous thing that came along was we were notified by Hope for Creation through our connections in the Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition that there were available grants to install electric vehicle charging stations. So we applied and we got a grant, and we now have 2 charging stations at the back of our church. And that was enough to inspire us to have an electric vehicle expo. A month or so ago, we got a bunch of people out, and we're getting people from our church as well as passersby who are coming in to recharge. So we hope in the process, that wasn't part of our energy saving plan, but it was part of the things that we ought to do to encourage the larger populace to make some changes in their lives. So that's going. And finally, here's kind of the status report. So our first, if you look on the right-hand side here, after 1 year of operation, we had produced from our solar system nearly 24,000 kilowatt hours, which is 41% of our pre-pandemic usage. That number is probably bigger because we had those 14 days in March when we weren't recording anything. And then we have moved down through this to getting the rooms insulated, EV charging stations in. We've completed 4 rooms, and our cost so far for those 4 rooms was $3,400, less than what we'd expected, even though the cost of furring strips went from $1 to $2.50 between when I planned the budget and when this happened. And our second year budget means we'll be able to complete 5 or 6 more rooms.
Tom, can I ask you to save me 10 minutes and hopefully maybe if anyone has a question or two?
Perfect timing, Denise, because this is my last slide.
All right. Sorry to have to rush you.
Here we are, and we're, if anybody wants to volunteer in putting up insulation panels, we're happy to welcome you to join in on the fun.
Well, I appreciate that. It's such a good example, right, of how any building can be transformed. And I really like the idea of the priority list that you put out. Any quick questions for Tom? I do want to make sure I introduce the campaign. Mark and Tim, I see.
Tom, thank you so much. That was a wonderful talk, and I really appreciate it. I have a bunch of questions. I can't take the time to ask them all. I wonder if you could share your contact info, and I will ask one then. Yeah. It seems to me with all the data you've already collected, it would be not trivial, but easy enough maybe to calculate for each individual action what the carbon savings is per year, and then what you spent on it. And this would be an excellent, really a wonderful case study for prioritizing and seeing how an older building can be renovated, and also your solar panel project. And with those statistics, that would be extremely helpful to me personally at the township. And advocating for various things.
Yeah, it's an easy step from how many 1,000 cubic feet of gas you're saving to what your impact on the carbon emissions is. So yes, that can be done. Let's talk. My
Mark,
my email's in the chat now.
Donna just put Tom's email in there. So anyone that wants to follow up with some of the details of the plans and how People's Church did this, they're happy to share it. Tim, did you have a question?
Yeah, Tom, I don't know what your building usage rate is. I mean, is it the case that much of the time, most of the building is not in use? Or am I wrong about that? If that is the case, then how are you managing your energy use in that light?
Well, there's almost always a staff person there during the normal times. And so it's hard to shut the place down completely. And with the hot water heating system, it takes a while to get up to speed and it takes a while to get down. So that's a difficult one. We do have program thermostats on the new edition, which is a forced air heating system. And so that's set for time of use. We're not sure, since we haven't gotten back into full operation, what this is going to look like. The 4 rooms we've done are on 2 different loops, so we don't have a complete loop finished at this point. But I think what we will end up doing is putting in heat pumps into those rooms that are finished, shutting off the hot water supply entirely and put those on programmable thermostats.
So who says there aren't green jobs out there and you can't save money while solving climate change, right? What a wonderful example. I want to thank Jeff for putting in the chat. I failed to mention there's some students on here, and one of our former climate change interns, Ida, is on the Zoom. Western, we are currently hiring again. We need a Western student for that position to come work with Jeff and I and all of you on this work. And I'm gonna help out Hope for Creation and put in, they are seeking a very similar position. And I have their position description in the Google Drive there. And their position pays $20 an hour and is open to anyone in the community and is part-time. I know, Jeff, they're blowing us out of the water. We got to get Western's rates up. So if you, there are jobs out there. We're both looking for kind of the same thing, a climate communications specialist to tell that story about People's Church, right? To do all of these things with us. Well, I'm going to take my chair's prerogative and close out today with a kind of a big idea that I want to launch today. And then let's see where we can take this over our next meetings. And so really the sort of grassroots, all the different meetings that I get to go to, our own coordinating committee, really what's been happening over this little hiatus for the last couple of months is all sorts of folks have come up with the same idea, which tells me it's brilliant, that we ought to be re-engaging government. And of course, you all know that there's a huge role for government, particularly our local government, to play as we go forth in trying to move forward. And so we're really trying to think about how to coordinate an action campaign that does exactly what the coalition is supposed to do and mobilize that collective action and start calling and emailing and attending those still virtual meetings. If you're not familiar, there's a little map of Kalamazoo County down there. There are 24 different governmental units in the county of Kalamazoo, folks, okay? And it's my greatest hope and wish that the 2,000 plus folks that get my emails, I bet there's someone that lives in every single one of those, right? There are 15 different townships and 5 villages and 4 cities. And so the sort of idea here is that we would be able to identify coalition members who are within those different governmental units and be able to then be a true constituent contacting that elected official. Of course, what do we want? It's been about, right, 2019 are all of our climate emergency declarations. So it's been a couple years now since those have been passed. I don't know about you, but that's not my definition of how we act if we're actually in an emergency. But we also have a lot of new elected officials since the last local elections last year and upcoming, of course, in the city of Kalamazoo this year. So there's a lot of elected officials that may not know about those climate emergency declarations. They may not understand what was passed and what we've already agreed to. There's a lot of townships and villages that still haven't passed a climate emergency declaration. So maybe that is a place to start. We want to make sure everyone knows those commitments that were made, hold our folks who have passed those accountable, pass some more climate emergency declarations. And really the last two, what do we want is really where I think our focus can be. We have to be implementing climate action plans. The city is getting farther and farther along, City of Kalamazoo on that. Mark Miller is here chairing a Kalamazoo Township Committee to try to move us along. And we all kind of have agreed that, gosh, this work, if not coordinated in some regional aspect, Nikki, this was one of your first comments when we first started passing the climate emergency declarations, that if we're not coordinating that, and the county seems to be a good level of government to organize it around, that what we really need, of course, is someone to do this work. And so the idea for a county-wide climate coordinator, if you see me in person, right, we're being recorded. Usually I refer to it as the climate czar, right? Someone to help bring together all the different governmental units, their different planning, their different procedures, right? Keep some of that local autonomy, but bring together the things that need to be brought together at a little bit more regional scale. When we're talking about things like EV charging stations, for example, and transportation in particular. So I hope to roll this out over the next few meetings and maybe always take about 10 or 15 minutes at the end of every meeting. And we're gonna get started on Hope for Creation is already ahead of us and started to get together a list so that we all know who all of our elected officials are. I hope to work with League of Conservation Voters at probably our November meeting and give just a really brief, most of you have done public comment or have been engaged in these processes before. It's always useful to maybe review kind of best practices for how to give public comment. And again, each one of these units has a different process for how they run their meetings, how you give comment, how long you have. So we're gonna work up what all those different rules and regulations are. We can work together then on what our comments and messaging need to be once we know sort of where our population of climate advocates actually live, and whether that might be passing more climate emergency declarations, whether that's advocating for climate action plans, or whether that again is advocating for a county-wide position and helping to write and craft those resolutions. And so we will be working on all of that together, I hope, in these meetings as our own campaign. And then we'll be asking you to call, email, attend, and do all of that. And so that's about the shortest overview I can give of that. A lot of folks have been in the know on this, and it's been sort of, this is the soft opening, I guess, if you will, to some members who maybe haven't thought about it in this way. So anyone who's been working on this or talking about this with me for way too long now, Nikki, I see your hand up, and then Mark, if you want to chime in from the township's perspective. Not yet, I figured. Nikki, what you got?
Well, this is sort of related. And having elected officials, having anybody listen to you is extremely difficult. If you listen to the current tapes about the apportionment committee, you will see how public comment and input is absolutely and completely ignored when they don't want to hear it. And so that's just a warning that, you can get extremely frustrated. You just have to sort of just keep plugging away because as I said, with the apportionment committee, it was a perfect example of how not to listen to the public comments.
It's not going to get done quickly. So perhaps I should have led with that. Thank you, Debbie Downer, Nikki Lee today. I foresee us working this campaign over the next 2 to 3 months. I would not expect action in a real budget, right, or a staff position for another year. So we really, that's why we need each other. That's why we need this coalition. And from my view, it's just the perfect way to mobilize. I always want to use the word activate, and then I think of that Wonder Twins, activate the coalition. I think this is a perfect way for us to involve affiliates like League of Women Voters who are working on this already in our area and really work on one thing together. So that's where I hope to take us, and it might take a while. We'll be working on this for a while, I think. I hope that made a little bit of sense to some folks about how we can help each other, support each other, and get to the actions that we know that we need to take. Oh, yay, Ida's in. She can help with planning. Marianne knows political persistence is critical. Huh? All right, well, you'll be getting spreadsheets and learning how to look everybody up, and we'll be talking about messaging. Yay, huh? All right. Thank you, everyone. You can hopefully see how we hope to run these meetings. Sign up again. Your 15 minutes or less of fame. Come tell us what you're doing, and let's share the burden and the wealth at the same time, and we'll get started on that action campaign. It was really great to see everyone again. Yay. I'm trying to keep, it's 1:02. Whew, we did it. Have a great Friday. It stopped raining. Go enjoy it.
Thanks. Bye all.
Bye, everyone.